The news swept like wildfire across the Comstock. Julia Bulette had been murdered, and all of Virginia City was up in arms. Murder was not at all unusual for those raucous times. In 1867, the Comstock Lode was yielding millions of dollars in ore each month, and eager miners from all over the world were converging on the boomtown like locusts. Shootings, knifings, and fistfights were common, but the murder of Julia Bulette was not. Bulette had been a prostitute, but although women of easy virtue were prevalent in Virginia City, Bulette failed to fit the mold. Unlike her counterparts, she appeared openly in public, riding along the street in a carriage emblazoned with 4 aces. She maintained a regular seat at Piper's Opera House. Through a liaison with Tom Peasley, a local tough and firefighter, she had become an honorary member of the Liberty Engine Company No. 1, a coveted title, particularly for a woman. Bulette became a legend in her own time. Later newspaper accounts would find her tending the sick during typhoid epidemics, pumping water alongside her male counterparts during fires, though most of these reports were perhaps more fiction than fact. Regardless, when she was discovered, bludgeoned, and strangled in her tiny crib on the morning of January 20th, 1867, the entire city was in turmoil. Who could have done such a thing? Who had murdered Julia Bulette? It would be 4 months before there was a break in the investigation. A man by the name of John Millain had attempted to sell a dress pattern. That pattern had belonged to Julia Bulette. When several more items belonging to the victim were discovered in his room, Millain was taken into custody. On July 2nd, John Millain was placed on trial. The charge, first-degree murder. Throughout the trial, Millain protested his innocence. Had he not sat up all night guarding the body at the funeral parlor? Had he not marched in the funeral procession with a black armband? He loved her, he maintained. How could anyone accuse him of doing such a thing? But the jury was unmoved. After deliberating for merely an hour, John Millain was sentenced to be hung. Fire bells and mine whistles signaled the verdict to an anxious populace. But Millain's attorney, Charles DeLong, was convinced that Millain had not received a fair trial. After all, the evidence against Millain had been purely circumstantial. There had been no eyewitnesses, no direct evidence that could place Millain at Bulette's home at the time of the grisly murder. DeLong appealed to the Nevada Supreme Court. Aware of all of the publicity surrounding the murder and subsequent trial, an answer was not long in coming. In a lengthy opinion authored by Chief Justice Henry Beatty, the Supreme Court upheld the conviction. Beatty's terse reply left little reason for doubt. The district court was ordered to set a date for the hanging. On April 24, 1868, more than 3,000 people, including the popular Mark Twain, had gathered north of Virginia City, where an omnibus scaffold had been erected. Hawkers feverishly worked the crowd, selling refreshments and photo postcards of Millain. At noon, John Millain, escorted by armed troops, ascended the platform. There he read a prepared statement in his native French, then in English. He protested his innocence to the end. At precisely 10 minutes to 1, the trapdoor was sprung, and John Millain plunged to the gallows floor. A hush fell over the crowd, and for 25 minutes the body swung slowly in the clear mountain air. The hanging of John Millain provided the conclusion to a story which might otherwise have been forgotten. The action of the Nevada Supreme Court made a Virginia City prostitute perhaps the most famous woman on the Comstock. Julia Bulette, the victim, and John Millain the murderer had become a part of the Nevada legend.